At first, I thought family drama meant holiday squabbles over who burned the turkey or who forgot to buy the pumpkin pie. Nothing could have prepared me for what happened at my daughter's 18th birthday. The afternoon had been picture perfect. The California sun spilling gold over the park, the scent of barbecue smoke curling lazily above the picnic tables, laughter rolling like music from every corner. Cassidy Vaughn, that's me, was busy arranging cupcakes on a tray when it happened, the sound that still splits my chest open every time I remember it. A scream. High-pitched, raw, terrifying. I spun toward the white party tent where my daughter had gone to change into her new dress. My heart stuttered, then bolted as I ran. When I pulled back the flap, the world stopped. Her hair, her beautiful dark hair she had been growing since middle school, was scattered across the ground like fallen feathers. Her scalp gleamed under the dim light, jagged patches of skin exposed. She sat crumpled on the floor, hands covering her face, shoulders shaking with sobs. And standing above her, smirking as if this were some prank show, was my sister, Cynthia Vaughn, floral dress swaying gently, a pair of electric clippers humming low on the folding table beside her. "What the hell did you do?" My voice tore out, thick with rage, trembling so violently it barely sounded like mine. Cynthia gave that smug little laugh she'd always used when she wanted to dodge blame. "Relax, Cass. It's just a joke. She'll laugh it off later." A joke? My daughter sat stripped, humiliated, shaking like a broken bird. My hand reacted before my brain could catch up. Crack. The slap echoed through the tent, silencing even the music outside. Gasps rippled from the relatives who had followed me in. My daughter Amber, my world clutched my arm as if drowning. I pulled her up, shielding her with my body, and marched us through the stairs and whispers. Behind me, my mother's voice lashed out like a whip. "Ungrateful child, always stirring trouble, bastard girl." I didn't turn back. Not once. By the time I shoved Amber into the car and slammed the door, my pulse was a war drum in my ears. She buried her face against me, her bald scalp scraping my shoulder, her sobs soaking into my blouse. I drove home in silence, fury boiling under my skin like wildfire. That night, I barely slept. Every blink brought the image of hair on the tent floor, the cruel twist of Cynthia's smile, my mother's venom dripping from her tongue. And in the gray dawn, as coffee steamed untouched on the counter, a knock rattled my front door. When I opened it, there she was, my mother, Dorothy Vaughn. Her eyes were swollen, her voice fragile as a paper thread. "Cassidy," she whispered, "please, give your sister a way to live." Her words sent a shiver through me, like a crack forming in ice. Something deeper, darker was lurking beneath her plea, something that, once revealed, would unravel our family forever. I tightened my grip on the doorframe, fury surging hot again. "Get out!" I hissed, slamming the door so hard the glass shook. Her words lingered like smoke in the air, choking me. I didn't know it yet, but this was only the beginning. The images of the party kept replaying in my head all night, the tent flapping in the breeze, the sharp crack of my slap, Cynthia clutching her cheek, her eyes wide, not with shame but with something else. And then she whispered it. I had to stop her from going to the after-party. Her voice shook, not cocky anymore. My stomach dropped. I turned, staring into her face. "Stop her from what?" I demanded, my words slicing the air like glass. Cynthia's hands trembled as she fumbled with her phone. She shoved it at me, screen glowing. And there they were, photos. Dozens of them. Amber's arms, lined with bruises shaped like fingers pressed too hard, purple marks blooming on her ribs, hidden where clothes usually covered them, a welt near her collarbone. My throat turned to sand. Cynthia's voice broke, lower now, almost ashamed. "That boyfriend of hers, Mason. I caught him behind the gym last week, shoving her. He's been doing this for months." I scrolled through picture after picture, my gut twisting tighter with each one. My daughter, my sweet girl, looked up at me from across the room, her face pale, lips trembling. She nodded, slowly, painfully. "It's true, Mom," she whispered, tears spilling fresh tracks down her cheeks. For a moment, the ground shifted beneath me. Rage, guilt, sorrow, and disbelief collided in my chest until I couldn't breathe. Anthony, my husband, stormed into the room just then. His broad frame filled the doorway, his eyes sharp with alarm. He snatched the phone from my hand, staring at the bruises in silence. His jaw clenched so tight the muscles in his neck bulged. "How long?" His voice cracked, torn between fury and grief. He turned to Amber, his hands flexing at his sides. Amber flinched, her voice barely audible. "Since spring." Anthony's fists curled, his whole body coiled like a spring about to snap. Then he dropped to one knee beside her, his anger folding into heartbreak. "Why didn't you tell us?" His voice softened, breaking around the edges. Amber's eyes dropped. "He said if I told, I'd lose everything, that no one would believe me." Her words slammed into me like a freight train. How had I missed the signs? How had we both been so blind? But Cynthia hadn't. My sister had noticed. She had done something, though brutal, though twisted. She had shaved Amber's head to keep her from stepping into Mason's trap that night. I pocketed the phone, my hands shaking, my mind spinning with what this meant. My daughter wasn't just humiliated. She was in danger, real danger. That evening, the danger showed up at our front door. A pounding, furious, relentless. I opened it just a crack. And there stood Mason, face lit by the harsh porch light. His eyes burned with rage. His lips curled into a sneer. "Why isn't Amber answering me?" His voice was a growl, low and venomous. "You tell her to pick up her damn phone." I blocked the doorway with my body. "Leave, Mason, now, before this gets worse." But he shoved forward, trying to force his way inside. "Don't listen to Cynthia. She's lying." "Those bruises?" "From a hike. Amber fell, that's all." "You're ruining us." Amber's voice trembled from the hallway behind me. "Go away, Mason. Please." He ignored her. Anthony came down the stairs then, each step measured, his jaw a wall of stone. He planted himself at my side, his presence filling the space. "Back. Off." Mason chuckled, the sound dark. He pulled out his phone and waved it like a weapon. "Want proof?" His smirk widened. 2 weeks ago, school parking lot. "Anthony, you remember?" I felt Anthony stiffen beside me, his face drained of color. "What is he talking about?" I demanded. Anthony's eyes flicked to mine, guilt heavy in his stare. I saw a bruise on Amber's neck. I confronted him. I grabbed him by the collar and told him if he touched her again, I'd end him. Mason grinned, triumphant, and hit play. From his phone, Anthony's voice thundered out, captured perfectly. "If you ever lay a hand on her again, I'll bury you." My knees went weak. Mason's smirk was poisonous. "My dad's a lawyer. If you don't back off, that little recording is enough to destroy you. You'll lose everything." My fury surged, but instead of yelling, I lifted my own phone, hitting record. "Go ahead," I said. "Let's see who believes who." Mason lunged toward me, but Anthony shoved him back hard. Mason stumbled, cursing, spitting threats about calling the cops on us. Amber began to sob, whispering through tears that Mason had recordings of her, 2 twisted fragments of arguments he used to make her look like the villain. Mason barked at her to shut up, his voice sharp as a whip. That was it. I slammed the door in his face, heart hammering so hard it hurt. Mason pounded the window, his voice muffled but vicious. "You'll regret this." His truck roared to life, tires squealing as he tore off into the night. And in the silence that followed, I knew this war was only beginning. The night after Mason stormed away, I couldn't close my eyes without hearing his voice echoing, "You'll regret this." The desert outside felt too quiet, the kind of silence that presses against your ribs and makes it hard to breathe. Anthony paced the kitchen, checking the locks twice, his jaw tight with guilt. Amber sat at the table, hands twisted together, her body trembling. By morning, I knew we couldn't wait. We had to act. I drove with Amber beside me, her thin fingers clutching mine, as we pulled into the Albuquerque police station. My heart pounded as I handed over Cynthia's photos and the screenshots of Mason's text messages. Across the desk sat Officer Karen Davis, a woman with sharp eyes and a voice that carried both steel and compassion. She flipped through the images, her brow furrowing deeper with each bruise. "These aren't accidents," she said firmly, scribbling notes. "He's hurting her. We'll assign a patrol near your house and file this as an active case. Take her to the hospital today, document everything." They. Amber flinched when Karen mentioned the word hospital, but I squeezed her hand. "We'll do it together," I promised. That afternoon, the sun glared hot and merciless through the windshield as we pulled up to Presbyterian Hospital. Amber stared out the window, silent. Her reflection fractured in the glass. In the exam room, a doctor's expression turned grim as she examined the bruises. She pressed gently along Amber's ribs, measuring the marks with practiced precision. A nurse snapped photos, writing dates in careful script. "How long has this been happening?" the doctor asked softly. Amber's voice cracked. "It started small. Grabs, shoves. Then, worse." Her shoulders curled inward, as if to shield herself from the memory. The doctor's face hardened, her pen scratching across the clipboard. "This is abuse. I'm recommending counseling immediately, and I'll file my report for the police." I nodded, my throat burning, and gripped Amber's hand tighter. Inside, guilt seared me. I should have seen it sooner. When we got home, the shadows had already stretched long across the neighborhood. A knock rattled the door, and for a moment my heart leapt with fear. But it wasn't Mason. It was Erin Wallace, our neighbor who ran the flower shop down on Central Avenue. She stood there, her apron still dusted with pollen, worry etched into her face. "I saw Mason's truck speeding off last night," she said quickly. "And Cassidy, I've heard things. I've seen him. Once, I caught him yelling at Amber behind the gym. Too close, too rough." My breath caught. "You saw that?" Erin nodded. "I should have said something earlier. I'm sorry. But I'll talk to the police if they need me." She stepped inside and hugged Amber, whispering that she deserved better. That she wasn't alone. Amber broke down crying, clinging to her. And I knew this mattered. Someone else had seen it. Someone else could back us up. Later that night, another knock came. But this time, it wasn't a friend. Dorothy. My mother. Her eyes were bloodshot, her hands trembling. "Cassidy, please," she begged, voice shaking. "Forgive Cynthia. She only wanted to protect Amber. Don't let the police destroy her life." Her words cut deeper than knives. I froze, anger and confusion tangling inside me. Protect her? By humiliating her? By shaving her head in front of the whole family? Dorothy hesitated, tears streaking down her cheeks. And then she dropped the secret that cracked everything open. "Cynthia isn't just your sister. She's my daughter, from before I married your father." The floor tilted under me, my lungs locked. For 38 years, I had believed Cynthia and I were full sisters. My entire family story twisted in a single sentence. "She acted out of love," Dorothy cried. "She wanted to keep Amber away from Mason. She overheard him planning something bad at that party. Please, Cass. Drop the police report. She's already lost her job. Don't let her lose everything." But I couldn't. My voice came out steady even as my hands shook. Amber's safety comes first. Cynthia made her choices. And so did you, Mother. Dorothy's face hardened. The pleading vanished, replaced with anger. "You'll regret this, Cassidy. You're tearing this family apart." She stormed out, the door slamming behind her, leaving me shaking in the wreckage of her revelation. Anthony came home late, tie loose, exhaustion etched into his face. I told him everything about Dorothy's secret, about the hospital, about Erin's testimony. He cursed under his breath, fists tightening. "We should have done this sooner," he muttered. I didn't argue. He was right. That night, as Amber sketched quietly in her room, I called Officer Karen again, updating her with Erin's statement. Her voice on the other end was sharp and resolute. "We'll add it to the file. Keep every piece of evidence safe. Mason won't get away with this." But as I hung up and checked the locks again, Dorothy's words whispered in the back of my mind like a warning I couldn't shake. This was no longer just about Mason. My own family was fracturing, and I could feel the ground opening wider beneath our feet. 3 days later, the phone rang just as the sun was setting over the desert. I nearly dropped it when I heard Officer Karen Davis's voice. "Cassidy, we searched Mason's truck this afternoon. We found a small bag of pills hidden under the passenger seat. We believe he planned to use them at that party. He's under arrest." For a split second, relief washed over me so sharp it almost hurt. I gripped the counter, whispering, "Thank God." But that relief evaporated within hours. That evening, the phone rang again. A man's voice, this time smooth, sharp, dripping venom. "Mrs. Vaughn, this is Ronald Reed, Mason's father." No. Every muscle in my body locked. Ronald Reed was a well-known attorney in Albuquerque, a man whose reputation for crushing families in court was legendary. "You think you can drag my son's name through the mud?" His tone cut like broken glass. "Drop this case or I'll bury your husband for assault. That recording of him threatening Mason? A judge will eat it alive. You'll lose everything." My heart raced, but I forced my voice steady. "We have proof texts, photos, hospital reports. The truth will bury Mason, not us." Ronald chuckled darkly. "You think anyone will take a teenager's word over mine? You'll regret this, Mrs. Vaughn. Mark my words." I hung up, my hands trembling so hard the phone nearly slipped. When Anthony came home, I told him. His face paled, his jaw grinding. "Ronald's firm has destroyed bigger people than us," he muttered, pacing the kitchen like a caged lion. "If he twists that recording—" I grabbed his arm. "No, we're not backing down. Not now. Not ever." But Ronald's shadow loomed large. The next morning, a knock thundered at the door. My stomach flipped. For one terrifying moment, I thought Mason had come back. But when I opened it, 2 officials stood there, one carrying a clipboard, the other with a badge clipped to her blazer. "Mrs. Vaughn?" the woman asked, her tone professional, her eyes piercing. "Linda Carter, Child Protective Services. We need to speak with you about Amber." The words hit like a punch. My breath caught in my throat. CPS. They think I can't protect her. They stepped inside. Linda's eyes swept over the living room, lingering on the family photos, the half-finished sketchbook on the coffee table, Amber's backpack tossed against the wall. Amber came down the stairs slowly, clutching the banister. Linda led her into the bedroom for a private talk. I stood in the hallway, my chest burning, my mind screaming, what if they take her away from me? Minutes stretched like hours. When Linda emerged, her expression softened just slightly. She sat with Anthony and me at the kitchen table, flipping through her clipboard. "I've reviewed the police report, the hospital photos, and Amber's statement," she said, her voice steady. "Your home is stable. You're protecting her. That matters. But she's traumatized. She needs counseling immediately." I nodded furiously. "Anything. Just don't—" My voice cracked. "Don't take her from me." Linda's gaze held mine. "That's not our plan, Mrs. Vaughn. But keep her safe. The threats from Mason and his father aren't over." When they left, my legs gave out and I sank into a chair, shaking so hard I could barely breathe. Anthony knelt beside me, gripping my hands. "We'll fight them all," he whispered, voice rough but fierce. "Ronald, Mason, anyone. They're not taking her from us." That night, as Amber lay curled in bed, her sketchbook open on the blanket, I sat beside her. She traced lines shakily, drawing a cactus beneath a blazing desert Sunday. Her voice was fragile when she spoke. "Mom, kids at school are calling me a liar. Mason's friends are spreading rumors that I faked everything. They slip notes in my locker saying he just wants to talk. They laugh when I walk by." Tears stung my eyes, but I kept my voice firm. "Let them talk. We have the truth. We'll fight for you, Amber. No rumor, no lie, no lawyer can take that away." "Nay." She leaned into me, her small body trembling, and in that moment, I swore louder than any vow I'd ever made that nothing and no one would tear her away from me again. 2 months later, we found ourselves seated in the hushed, suffocating air of an Albuquerque courtroom. The walls felt taller than mountains, the silence sharp as knives. Amber's hand gripped mine beneath the polished wooden table, her skin cold, her knuckles white. Across the aisle, Mason sat in a dark suit, slouched beside his father, Ronald Reed. Ronald leaned close, whispering strategies into his son's ear, his slick smile never wavering. His legal team flanked him like vultures, their briefcases snapping open like jaws ready to devour. The judge, a silver-haired woman with eyes like flint, called the case. State of New Mexico versus Mason Reed. That. Officer Karen Davis sat with the prosecutor. Their file stacked high hospital photos. Cynthia's snapshots of bruises. Amber's text messages. The bag of pills. And even Jake's confession about the plan to spike drinks at the party. But Ronald was ready to play dirty. When Amber was called to the stand, my heart nearly broke. My daughter, still so young, still healing, walked past rows of strangers, each step heavy with fear. She sat down, the microphone towering in front of her, her hands trembling as she took the oath. "Tell us, Amber," the prosecutor asked gently. "What was your relationship with Mason Reed?" Her voice shook at first, but then she lifted her chin. "He controlled everything. What I wore, who I talked to. He isolated me from my friends. And when I disobeyed, he hurt me." Her words cracked, tears welling, but she pressed on, painting the picture no mother ever wants to hear. She described the bruises, the threats, the night he pinned her against a wall at a school dance, hissing that he'd ruin her if she ever told. Gasps rippled through the jury box. I felt my nails bite into my palms, rage and sorrow flooding me until I could barely see. Amber's eyes flicked to mine, searching for strength. I nodded, mouthing, "You've got this." Then came Cynthia. She took the stand, shoulders stiff, her voice unsteady. And for the first time, she admitted the truth. She had shaved Amber's head because she overheard Mason bragging about drugging her at the party. She even had a recording, grainy, shaky footage of Mason whispering to Jake about slipping something into Amber's drink. The jurors leaned forward, their faces hardening, one woman shaking her head in disgust. Ronald shot to his feet. "Objection. Inadmissible. That video was illegally recorded." But the judge's gavel cracked down. "Overruled. It was recorded in a public space. No expectation of privacy." Mason's smirk slipped. His hands fidgeted, his confidence crumbling in front of 12 strangers who now saw him for what he was. The prosecutor pressed harder, laying out the pills, the bruises, Jake's testimony. Piece by piece, the puzzle snapped into place, painting a portrait of a predator. Ronald fought back with every trick in the book. He painted Mason as a misunderstood teenager, claimed Amber's injuries came from sports, insisted the texts were jokes between kids in love. His voice dripped with practiced charm, but it rang hollow in the heavy air. The courtroom wasn't buying it. When the jury filed out to deliberate, I held Amber close in the hallway, whispering, "You were so brave, sweetheart. No matter what happens, you told your truth." Anthony wrapped his arms around us, his eyes red but proud. Hours crawled by. 3, 4, then the bailiff called us back in. The foreman stood, his voice clear, slicing through the silence. "On the charges of assault, conspiracy to harm, and possession of illegal substances, we, the jury, find Mason Reed guilty." Amber squeezed my hand so tight it hurt. Tears blurred my vision as I looked across the room. Mason's shoulders slumped, his face pale. Ronald's jaw twitched, his perfect composure cracking as he hissed furious whispers to his lawyers. The judge's gavel struck once more. "Sentencing will be scheduled next week." Defendant remanded into custody. As the deputies led Mason away in handcuffs, his father turned to us, eyes burning. He leaned close, his voice low and venomous. "This isn't over. I'll appeal. You'll regret ever crossing the Reeds." But for the first time in months, I stared him down without flinching. "We're not afraid of you anymore." And I meant it. A week later, we sat once more in the same courtroom, the air heavy with expectation. Mason Reed stood before the judge, his head bowed now. No trace of the cocky grin that once taunted us. The gavel struck like thunder. 2 years in juvenile detention, 3 years of probation, mandatory counseling. The words echoed, sealing his fate. The deputies cuffed him, leading him away as he sneered at no one, powerless at last. His father, Ronald, flushed crimson, barking at the lawyers, but there was no saving him this time. Appeals were filed, but each fell flat. The judge cited Mason's clear pattern of aggression and his intent to harm. Ronald's reputation crumbled with every headline. Back home, the news spread like wildfire through the neighborhood. Ronald Reed, once untouchable, was now a man with a disgraced son and clients abandoning his law firm. People whispered, avoided eye contact, stopped calling. The mighty Reed name was now tainted beyond repair. But none of that mattered to me. My focus was Amber. She started therapy with a counselor named Laura Perez at a small clinic across town. Twice a week, we sat in that quiet office where walls were lined with gentle paintings, where Amber slowly peeled back the layers of pain Mason had left. She learned to name her fear, to see the red flags, to stop blaming herself for the fists, the threats, the humiliation. Anthony came with us too. He left work early, sat in the circle, his hand always on Amber's shoulder, his voice steady when he said, "We're here. We're not going anywhere." And for the first time in a long time, I saw his armor crack, saw his tears fall when Amber admitted how trapped she had felt. How small. We cried with her, held her, and promised together we would never miss the signs again. Slowly, Amber's light returned. She joined the school's art club, her sketches bolder now, bursting with desert colors saguaro cacti under blazing skies, mountains painted with fire. I framed one of her drawings, hanging it in our living room like a shield of resilience. But the fractures in my family cut deeper. Dorothy and Cynthia became ghosts' shadows I no longer welcomed. They lost friends, invitations, even their apartment, retreating to a cramped rental on the edge of town. Dorothy sent letters, shaky handwriting pleading for forgiveness, swearing Cynthia's act had saved Amber. I tore them up. The truth was simple. Family isn't who shares your blood. Family is who stands by you when everything falls apart. One evening, Amber asked softly, "Do we have to hate them forever?" I pulled her close, brushing her short hair styled now in a pixie cut she wore with pride, a reminder she had survived. We don't hate them, but we don't need people who hurt us. Love isn't an excuse for betrayal. She nodded, her eyes older than her years, and I knew she understood. Our home grew lighter. We made a ritual of family dinners, just the three of us, plates of enchiladas steaming. Laughter weaving through the kitchen like music. Amber smiled again, a sound more healing than any verdict. I even found pieces of myself again joining a local book club at the library, meeting women who carried scars like mine, who taught me that cutting ties with toxic bloodlines wasn't betrayal, it was survival. One night, Amber showed me a flyer for a teen advocacy group on dating abuse. "Mom," she whispered, voice shaking but proud. "I want to speak. I want other girls to see the warning signs I missed." Tears blurred my vision, but I smiled, my heart swelling. "You're stronger than you know, baby. Go change the world." And as she laughed softly, her sketchbook balanced on her lap, I realized we weren't broken anymore. We were rebuilding. Stronger, braver, untouchable. The desert breeze slipped through the window that night, cool against my skin. I stood in the quiet house, listening to Amber's laughter drift out from the kitchen. I thought of Dorothy's secrets, Cynthia's choices, Mason's threats. All of it had once chained us down. But now it was behind us. Family, I had learned, isn't about blood or apologies whispered too late. Family is about who shields you when the storm hits. And as long as Amber and Anthony stood with me, nothing, not even the Reeds, not even the ghosts of betrayal could take that away.